In this video, we'll explore credit card debt. Now let's first understand how credit cards work. You're going to have a billing period in which you can make all the purchases you want with the credit card. But remember, you're borrowing money. This is not your money, it's the credit card's money. So they're going to send you, at the end of that period on the billing date, a balance of all the charges you made during that period. From there, you're going to be given a specific due date when they expect you to pay back that balance in full. Now, there's always a gap between the due date or the billing date and the due date, because there has to be time built in for them to send you the bill and for you to pay it back. This is called the grace period. So it's that time after receiving your bill and before your bill is due. During that time, they can't charge you interest if your balance has been paid at full prior to that. And this is normally about 3 weeks in a lot of credit cards. And a lot of it had to do with, if you think about how credit cards were charged before, probably 10, 15 years ago, all of it was done by mail. So they had to build in time for the mail to both deliver the bill as well as for them to receive your check back to pay it off. So say that we have a credit card with Bank of America. Maybe the billing date or billing period was from the 17th of February to the 16th of March. That would mean that the billing date would be March 17th. Now I'm going to have a due date then of April 16th. So I've got this window of grace period from March 18th to April 16th to pay back my credit card. And as long as I pay in that window, I will not get any fees added on to my bill. However, what happens if you can't pay that bill in full? What you will incur is called a finance charge. This is a fee you pay for the balance remaining after the due date. Now it's important to understand that now, where we talked about when you had no balance left from the prior time, they're now going to be looking at what's the balance each day of the billing period until the next due date or billing date. They're going to be charging an interest rate called the APR that they charge with this finance charge. Now, the APR you get, you're going to see numbers that are often double digits. This is if they charge you that interest over the entire year. But really, you're only going to pay the monthly interest of that. So you take that amount and divide it by 12. Just remember, it should be a decimal, not the actual number. Now, what do they charge that to? They're looking at what is your average balance. So they're going to look at what's the balance each day for the billing period of the next period, and they're going to average that together to determine what is your average balance. And that's what they're going to charge your finance charge with. So to calculate the finance charge, we're going to take our average daily balance, which we said was the sum of all those amounts averaged out. Then we're going to multiply it by your monthly interest rate, the APR divided by 12. And remember, that APR has to be in its decimal form, not its percent form. So let's look at some examples to try to help understand all of this together. Say that Greg had a credit card that has an APR of 24%, and he paid all but $500 on his last bill on April 6th. Now, during the next billing period, he made purchases of $200 on the 10th, $150 on the 18th, $350 on the 24th, $100 on the 2nd, and then he made a payment off of the balance of $400 on the 16th. The next due date will be May 6th. So what's the average daily balance? So the first thing I do is I try to write down some of the information I have to help me as I have to calculate this average daily balance. So first thing I do is I say, when are we starting? Since the due date was the 6th, my first start date will be the day after, April 7th. Now let's look at all the additional charges and payments he made during the next billing period. He made a purchase on the 10th of $200. He made a purchase on the 18th of $150. Another one of $350 on the 24th, and $100 on the 2nd. But you see I left this gap here. Why did I do that? That's because he also made a payment towards the balance. So that's like he's removing away from his balance, so he's subtracting out $400 on the 16th. And I left a gap there because we wanted to list these in date order. It's going to help as we start to calculate the average daily balance so we don't get ourselves mixed up. Now there's several ways we can go from here. We could list every single day from April 7th until the end, which is May 6th. Or we can create a chart where we condense some of this, or we could use a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to go through some of these to help out. Let's look at the chart as an idea. If I use a chart, I would use these 5 categories. What are the dates? How many days does that cover? What's the purchase or payment that I made on a specific time period? What's the balance at that point? And then over the course of those days, what's that total? So if I look, my first time is from the 7th until the 9th, because I see the next thing that happens is on the 10th. I say, well, how many days is that? 7, 8, 9. That's 3 days, because I have to include both the beginning and ending date. There were no purchases made on that day, but I did have a remaining balance that started on the 7th, the $500. So for the total, I'm going to take my number of days and multiply it by my balance. 3 times 500 is 1,500. Now the next thing that happened was on the 10th. And I look and say that will go until the 15th because the 16th has the next thing that occurs. So from the 10th to the 15th, that is 6 days. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. What happened there was an additional purchase of $200. Now the balance has gone from $500 plus the $200 to $700. So the total amount over those 6 days is $4,200. Now the next thing that occurred was the 16th, and then it'll go 16th to 17th because there's another activity on the 18th. That's 2 days. And what happened there is he removed from the balance $400. So 700 minus 400 gives $300. So 2 days at $300 is $600. Now it went from the 18th to the 23rd because I had to stop before the 24th. So that'd be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 6 days. On that, he made another purchase of $150. So that would be the 300 plus the 150 is 450. Now the total amount over those days is 6 times 450, which is $2,700. Now from the 24th until May 1st, he made another purchase with $350. So the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 31, because there's only 30 days in April, so that's 8 days. And that was a $350 additional purchase, which gives a total balance of $800 at that point, because 450 plus 350. Now 8 times 800 is $6,400. And last thing then, on May 2nd, until the end date of May 6th, there's one more purchase that goes over 5 days. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now that balance during that time was $900. 5 times 900 is 4,500. So I have all the totals there, but what I want to calculate is the average daily balance, not the total. So I'm going to take that total and divide it by the number of days. So I'll look and say, okay, the total. The sum is the sum of this column here. That's $19,900. The number of days should be the sum here, which should be 30 or 31 days unless you're dealing with February. So now I take that sum and I divide by 30, and that means that his average daily balance was $663.33 per day. So that's the average daily balance, but we want to know what's the finance charge. So it's the same information, but we want to know how do we calculate that finance charge. So that's going to be that average daily balance times the monthly interest rate. So we'll just bring over the average daily balance again, and the interest rate was 24%. So we're going to take that and write that as 2400 divided by 12. And we put in our ADV, which we said was $663.33. Now I divide and I'm going to multiply here, and that gives me that I'm going to pay, or Greg will pay, a $13.27 penalty on his May bill. That's his finance charge. All right, let's look at another example. Say that Trisha has a credit card with 18%. She starts with $1,250 that she wasn't able to pay on her last bill. She made purchases of $175, $320, $460, $100, $200, and also made a payment of $750. Now, and the next payment will be due on the 24th. On the 14th of June. So we could go through the exact same process, and I'll show you what all that would look like. Here's all that information. You can see I put it in order by date. The next thing, I could fill out the chart doing the exact same thing we did before, and I could figure out that average daily balance by doing the sum. So I'm going to add up this entire column, and I'm going to divide by the number of days. In this case, because we're going from May to June, there's actually 31 days, because there's 31 days in May. And so I have this average daily balance of $1,377.26. Now you can pause this video here if you want to take a minute, look at the table, and see if you can calculate each of these pieces yourself. And that'd be perfectly fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also show how could we use a sheet program to help us, like Google Spreadsheets or Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to open up Google Spreadsheets. I have one of these already started. And down here you can see I've got two examples. The first example, I'll have this on our site that you can use. Example 1 is as in Google Spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you how to do it using this example 2. So here's all the information that we need from that previous one. Where did we start? What's happened in each day? And then when do we need to end? So we start on May 15th. Now, here's one of the things I love about Google Spreadsheets and any spreadsheet program. If I click on this, you see that little blue dot at the bottom corner? I can drag this and I can go down and I can keep going all the way down that I need, and it's going to fill in the dates for me, which makes it so easy, makes my life so much easier. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to have a balance. I'm going to leave this middle column for when purchases and payments occur, and instead I'm going to put in here the amount that it is at that time. And you can see I'm doing this day by day versus that column where I had to calculate how many days there are. So on the 15th I had $12.50. The 16th, $12.50. The 17th, $12.50. The 18th, $12.50. The 19th, $12.50. And the 20th, $12.50. Now the 21st, I can see that I had a $175 charge. Now here's the thing. I could add these manually and put it here, but here's a really cool feature of Google Sheets. If I do equals, and I click what was my previous balance plus, so I just put the plus symbol, and then click on what's this charge, it calculates it for me. Now, you see that little drop down? If I drop down and I keep moving this down until, let's say, the 29th, it puts in that same number over and over for me. Now what happened on the 30th? There was a $320 purchase. So again, if I keep pulling it because it's now adding the cell, look, it added it for me. The 31st, it was negative $750. And this is only working because it has that equation built in now. And this goes from the 31st and all the way down to the 4th. Then on the 5th, I had a purchase of $460. Again, I can drag it until I get to the 9th, because on the 10th, so on the 10th was $100. So the 10th and 11th, and then on the 12th was a $200 charge. So if I drag it now, I can drag it to the end, which was June 14th. So once I put that little equal and I click on a cell, put the plus in a cell. As you can see written up here, it's telling me exactly how it's calculating that number. It calculates every single one of these numbers. Now, that's all the numbers. What do I do with all that? So I can write here the word total. And the way I'm going to do it now is I'm going to do equal, and this is going to be the code that'll help you out. If I do sum, and then I just click on C, if I do C:C, it'll do it. So I'm going to watch. That's the code that really does it, but I'm going to say sum, and you see it even wants to tell me what to do. If I just click on C, if I click on the letter C, see how it highlights everything and it puts it in the column there? I now have my amount all calculated for me. I didn't have to use my calculator to figure it out. Google Sheets did this for me. Now I can either use my calculator then to do this divided by 31, or I could say ADB, and I could say that's equal to, well, this cell, and then use the slash for divided by. We said it was 31 days because you can see where it ends on the 31st cell. And there's that amount, which is exactly what my table showed me as well. So either way, I can get to this value, but you may find using sheets like this, if you get used to it, can be very helpful. And again, I'll have this link there for you to be able to view how I created each of these parts. Now last thing would be that we've got the ADB. What about what the actual finance charge is? So again, we know our ADB was $1,377.26, and we know that we're going to need that APR of 18% to figure out the finance charge. So we substitute the two values into our equation, and remember that's 1800ths. We got to do it as the decimal form. I'm going to simplify my fraction there and multiply that by the average daily balance. So in this case, Trisha will pay a $20.66 penalty for the June bill. And I rounded this by looking at my second decimal and always looking at the third decimal place to know that it was 66 cents.